So today we're going to talk about building communities, okay? Now, the last time we were together, for those of you who were here last time, if you weren't here last time, you can see it. You can pick up these webinars on YouTube, on the SiteGround YouTube channel. But the last time we were here, we talked about personas. And I shared with you 3 personas that I am building and I'm still building. I don't want you to think that I've built them now and they're done. Since we've talked, I've added points to each of the 3 that I have done and fleshed them out a lot more based on there's some new industry information that came out for the scuba diving industry. So I took that and worked it into my personas. And yes, I actually have looked at a new idea I've had, and I've said to myself, I don't think Marla will buy this. And that's the whole point of having those personas, is to help you to quickly filter out based on who your audience is. So I hope you've taken the time to start building your personas. It's not something that you can do once and then it's done, but I hope that you take the time to start them and you'll continue working on them, because it really will help you with your business. So today we're going to talk about community. Now, almost all of mine experience has been in tech communities. I've worked in 2 different ones. Yeah, 2 different tech communities. I started about 16 years ago, and there were really only 2 of us in tech doing community, okay? I was in the PHP community, and I was paid to help build a portion of that community. And there was another guy in the MySQL community named Jay Pipes. And they didn't know what to call us back then. I mean, this is 16 years ago. Nobody really knew any about this. So they just called us the community guys. And since then, I've gone through several different titles. I've been a community manager, which I never really did like that one, because if you pay attention to this and you start doing this, you understand you don't actually manage any community or anybody in the community. At best, you're a community relationship manager. So I never really did like that one. And then there was developer evangelist, and I felt I needed to put on a seersucker suit and grease my hair back, because I was an evangelist. And I never did really like the religious connotations of that one, but it stuck for a few years. But then we settled on developer advocate, because all of my community members were software developers. And advocate means that not only do I go to the company and say, this is what people are talking about, but I also go back to the community and say, this is what we're considering building, and get feedback. And I actually am a conduit between the community and the company. It's a 2-way conduit. And so that one kind of stuck, because it does it really does highlight that 2-way nature of community building. And that's one of the aspects of communities that a lot of companies ignore when they're ramping up their community marketing program. They think that community marketing is one way. It's a fire hose out. Matter of fact, I worked for one company out of San Francisco, and I was hired by the VP of marketing. And she subsequently left, and they brought on a new CMO. And so I went out, because I don't live in San Francisco, but I went out to spend a week so I could get some FaceTime with the new CMO. And we're sitting there on the couch, and he asked me, he says, well, what do you do? And I was just as honest with him as I can. I said, I'm a t-shirt vendor. Because at that point, that's all the company considered community marketing. We'd show up at events, and we might as well have had t-shirt cannons like you see at sporting events and stuff like that, because all we're doing is tossing t-shirts, and we're having conversations with people until the t-shirts run out. And as soon as the t-shirts run out, the people move on to the next table. That's not community marketing, okay? And if that's your idea of community marketing, you're not going to get anything out of this talk. Not that I don't love a good t-shirt, okay? But that's not what we're going to be talking about. But I've been in and out of community building for the past 15 years. Now, what I'm about to share with you should never be considered the last word. It should not be gospel. The advice I'm going to give to you should never be followed blindly. What I'm going to share is what worked for me. And if some of these ideas work for you, hey, that's awesome. See, There's several good books out there on community building. Well, I say several good ones. There's several books out there on community building. The problem is all the ones I've seen are written by people that have done it once. And they think because they've done it once, they know how to do it. That's not true, okay? You've done it 3 or 4 times, then you come talk to me. I don't read books on building companies by people that have built one company, because all they can tell me is what worked for them in that one situation. So I'm going to share with you what I learned and what has worked for me. And I expect you to take these ideas and put them in your own situation and use the ones that make sense to you, but toss the ones that don't. You don't have to follow this particular formula. What I want you to do, though, is get to thinking about a community marketing program. So first, before we dive in to trying to build a community, before we dive headlong into trying to market to our community, let's understand a few of the basics. Any Butch Hartman fans out there? The Fairly Odd Parents? Yes, I blatantly stole that, okay? But I have kids that grew up during the time that was on Nickelodeon, basically on repeat every day. It was Fairly Odd Parents and then Rugrats, and Fairly Odd Parents and Rugrats. So I have an affinity for that, even though I didn't really want to. But let's talk about the rules. First, understand this. The community was there before you got there. And here's the fun fact. The community will be there long after you're gone, okay? With very few exceptions. Now, if you've invented something that has never existed before, then maybe you're building a new community from scratch. But I've yet to run into anybody in 16 years of community building that has actually done that. Everything, they say all art is derivative, okay? Every new idea builds on previous ideas. So there's probably something out there very similar to what you're doing. And there's a community of people that already are excited about this. But they predate your product. You don't own the community, but you can be a part of it and you can become a member in good standing. Now, don't step into the community, either physically or virtually, and start trying to change things, okay? Don't step in and say, I'm here to help, and start moving things around and trying to change things. All you're going to do is destroy any goodwill you might have, okay? Step in quietly. Try to figure out who the movers and shakers are. Then start making your plans and start talking to those people and say, this is what I'd like to do. What do you think? Solicit their advice, okay? Do this before you start making plans. And this brings us to our next point. Community marketing is a long-term marketing play, okay? Community marketing is not going to move the needle for you after your first community event, virtual or physical, okay? A lot of my time has been spent in community marketing, has been spent going to conferences and camps and stuff like this, physical events. Well, you know, all of that dried up in 2020. They stopped having those. But I'm watching, especially the tech community has long been doing virtual events. I've been running virtual events in the tech community since 2009. But the scuba industry, which is one that my new project is working in, they're new to this. So I'm watching as people tentatively step into this, okay? And I'm watching not only the mistakes they make, but I'm watching one group learn from another group and one scuba dive center learn from another one and stuff like that. And it's fun to watch that. If you're looking to cash in quickly, though, take the money you've got, throw it at Facebook, okay? Facebook may or may not move the needle for you quickly, but it's going to be a much better investment for you than community marketing, because community marketing programs are measured in years, not weeks and months, okay? But if you do it and you do it right, it's going to be so much more rewarding, both financially and emotionally, than just throwing money at Facebook or whatever your favorite social is. You need to spend time watching, learning, and seeing how things operate. Learn how your community works. Each community has its own language. And to be taken seriously, you've got to be able to speak that language. When I started in the PHP community, I was a programmer. I'd been a programmer 15 years by that point. So I knew the language of programmers, but the PHP community had its own dialect. And now that I'm stepping into scuba diving, I am learning a whole new language and how to speak to scuba divers. Now, I've been a scuba diver for 10 years, and I know most of the language, but there's some new ones that I'm picking up. And if I'm going to be taken seriously, I've got to be able to speak properly to the community. I'll give you an example. For those of you who know anything about scuba diving, we do not wear goggles, we do not wear flippers, we do not carry flashlights. We have masks, fins, and torches. It's the little things. But if I go in there and say, hey, what's everybody's favorite flippers? Nobody's going to talk to me, okay? So I've got to learn the language. And if you're going to step into your community, even if you've been doing this for years, stop, see how they're talking to each other, and learn the language before you step in. I've worked with a lot of software development communities, and learning the language, speaking about learning the language, one thing that's always funny/sad to me is watching recruiting companies or recruiters try to interact with these communities. Now, you would think that a recruiter would understand that if they're going to a software development user group, a physical in-person meeting, that they have to act a certain way, and they can't just stand up there and say, hey, give me all your resumes. But so many of them do. So many of them go in, pay for the pizza so everybody can eat, and assume that that buys them enough goodwill to be able to go up to people and say, hey, have you got a business card? Hey, have you got a resume? Something like that, to everybody there. That's not how it works. Now, I was lucky enough when I was in Nashville. We were talking earlier. I spent 20 years in Nashville, Tennessee. Loved that town, and knew all the recruiting agencies there intimately. Had hired people from most of them. And one of them said, hey, Cal, why don't you come talk to us? And so I went and gave them a presentation on how to talk to software development communities. And that was one of the smarter ones. They actually flourished while I was there, not because of me, but because they took the advice I gave to heart, and they started learning how to be a member in good standing in those communities. You've got to do that. You've got to put in the time to become a member in good standing. And a lot of the advice I gave them is the stuff I'm giving you. Okay, a lot of companies feel that since they're the largest player in the field, they have a right to be involved in that community. Oracle feels it has a right to be involved in the Java community. Java was there long before Oracle. Java will be there long after Oracle. You know, they have no right to be there. Even though they own Java, they don't own the community. They don't have a right to be there, okay? So no matter how big you are, or no matter how much you invest in this community, you don't have a right to be there. You have to earn your seat at the table by helping community members. But you can't just pay your way in, okay? When I was early on in my time as a community builder in the PHP community, Microsoft decided that PHP was its future. And so they started sending people to their community people to every conference and everything they sponsored and all this. Microsoft's plan was basically the same at every conference. We started calling them the community bartender, because I would literally see a Microsoft employee walk in with a credit card, put it down, and they would buy drinks until that credit card was maxed out. That was their plan. They were the community bartender. It wasn't until they started hiring people that were really serious about it. And a good friend of mine started doing this for them, a guy named Joe Stagner. And he really understood community, and he started making inroads with it. But that's because he showed up at every community event and started talking to the community, not just buying drinks. You've got to earn your seat at the table. You can't just buy your way in. And this is the most important thing, okay? And a lot of companies get this wrong. The community is not your pond to fish in. It exists solely to help its members. And the fastest way to get accepted into a community is start helping people. Okay. The fastest way to get ostracized community is to treat the community like your own personal marketing experiment. Help first, help often, give away as much as you can. Then, once you're a trusted member of the community, you can begin to build your community marketing program. Okay, them's the rules. Now, let's talk a little bit about the other parts. We're going to talk about, we've got three sections to part 2 here. Remember how I said the community was there before you got there? Well, that's only partially true. See, the wide area community for your product probably already exists. What you want to do is gather all those people from the wide area community that are interested in your particular product and create a subgroup, or Seth Godin likes to call them a tribe, your tribe in the community. See, the rules don't apply if you're talking to your tribe. If you're talking to your tribe, then they're already excited about talking to you, so you have a lot more leeway. And this is the point of all community marketing. My favorite example is Harley Davidson. Now, when Harley Davidson started out way back the turn of the last century, there was already a burgeoning community of motorcycle enthusiasts out there. Harley Davidson started gathering the people out of that community that really liked their motorcycles. And they started to talk to them, and they started to market to them, and they started to create events just for the people that liked Harley Davidson motorcycles. They didn't try to sell their motorcycles to people who really liked Indian motorcycles, okay? They focused on the people that already liked their product for their community marketing. In the end, they built such a strong brand within their community that it's one of the few communities out there where people will actually tattoo the logo of the Harley Davidson on themselves. That's dedication to the community, and that is a strong brand. And at that point, you don't market to those people. They understand they're there to help you because they're building their community as well. So, first and foremost, find that wide area community. For me, it's scuba divers. I want my wide area is all scuba divers, and I found several places where scuba divers hang out, but that's not my tribe. My tribe is the people that are new scuba divers that don't know what they're doing and really want somebody to help guide them through it, somebody that they can trust. That's my tribe, and I'm building my tribe. I started learning the language, and I became a member of good standing in the wide area community. Anytime somebody would ask a question I knew the answer to, I would answer it, okay? And no matter how long, there were some that took me 30, 45 minutes to write up, and that doesn't scale, but that's okay. I'm building my reputation in that community. I've also learned that there's 2 or 3 movers and shakers that I really need to get to know. And so I've reached out to them and just said hi. I didn't say, hey, can you help me? I didn't say, hey, what do you think of this? I just reached out to them and said, hi, how's it going? And become a friend with them. Then I'm starting to gather my people. Now, right now, I'm doing this virtually. I've started a mailing list that is just for my tribe. My mailing list has emails going out every week that are just tips and tricks. Now, I do send out one extra email anytime I'm going diving off of a boat. Since most of my people right now are local, I post a message when I'm going diving on a boat. Hey, I'm going to be diving on this boat. If you want to come dive with Uncle Cal, book your seat. I don't make any money off of that, but it gives them the opportunity to work or to practice their skills in a environment they feel safe, because some of these people that are on my mailing list are actually my scuba students. So they know me, they already trust me, and they want a chance to dive with me. So that's the way I'm building mine. For you, find out where your community gathers. Start attending meetings virtually or physically. I'm seeing some physical stuff starting to open back up. Here in South Florida, we are opening back up a bit. If your area is not, then find virtual. If your area is opening back up and it's safe to do so, then by all means, find these in-person events and try to attend them. Learn who the influencers are. Learn who the movers and shakers are, and start finding the people that either currently use your product or service, or at least are interested in it. This is your tribe in the community. Now, once you've invited some of them, invite them into your exclusive community. Give them things, make them feel special just for being part of your community. There are few people that will join your community. These first few people that will join your community are probably already excited about your product or service, and they're going to be willing to help you identify other people that are excited, because people like to be in groups that are all excited about the same thing. Now, in some cases, these first few people may actually become your ambassadors. If you start an official ambassador program, they're the candidates for it. I've been an ambassador for products that, I never met the company, but I was so excited about it. And we had such a thriving community that it was a natural thing for me to just be one of the leaders. I started recruiting other people into the community. If you find people doing this, treat them well, make them feel special, and they will help you. Now, side note, I told you I was going to talk a little bit about my role here at SiteGround. I don't actually work for SiteGround. I'm part of their ambassador program, okay? It is part of my relationship with SiteGround that I do these webinars, that I do that I write books for them, and that I do a podcast and I write blogs for them. I was using SiteGround before I started doing all this. I was excited about some of the stuff that they were doing. And because I was part of the PHP community and they deal with WordPress, WordPress is written in PHP, I kept running into SiteGround people at conferences and got excited about the people I met. They're the nicest people that I've met in the industry. So that's kind of how they recruited me to be a part of their ambassador program. Now, they have an official ambassador program, and I'm part of that. We have our own Slack channel, we have our own inside jokes, and we see each other either virtually right now at events, or the last one was 2019. We were all at, a bunch of us were at WordCamp US, and we all get to hang out. They took us to dinner, and I mean, a really nice dinner, that kind of stuff. SiteGround makes me feel special about the stuff that I'm doing. And yeah, I get early access to stuff. And yeah, every now and then I get, this perk or that perk. But I do it because I'm excited about the product and I'm excited about the community. So once you've created your community or your tribe, it's time to give them a reason to identify with you. You want to elevate the members of your community to that next level. So hopefully they've already bought your service or product, but at least they're excited about it enough to be a part of your tribe. So you need to start by just showing them how to get the most out of your product or service. This can be exclusive blog posts or emails that go out only to your private mailing list that give them tips and tricks that you don't tell the other people, okay? But it makes them feel special. If you sell t-shirts, okay, offer a community-only t-shirt with a beautiful piece of art on the back that's relevant to your community. And of course, your logo right here on the front breast pocket, just like the SiteGround one is right here. People love that kind of stuff. Offer that to them. If you run a coffee shop, offer special community mugs that people can buy and get refilled whenever they want. Now, some of these you might want to give away for free. Some you might want to charge for, okay? It really makes, it's up to you that how you do this. Community marketing doesn't mean you have to give everything away for free. Community marketing means you have to give people a reason to be excited about being part of a community. If you're an accountant, offer special community-only webinars on the latest tax information. And this could be community-only or it could be community first, okay? Community first is you're going to give the webinar and only your community members get to see it. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, you're going to give it for everybody else, but your community members got this information before everybody else. So here's an action, something you can do. Identify 3 things that you can do for your community members to make them feel special. Now, if your community is physical and you can gather them together, plan an event, okay? If your community is virtual, plan a special event with yourself or another noted speaker or expert that they can just ask questions and learn from, okay? And I'm seeing this, again, in a lot in the scuba diving community. They're trying to figure out what gets people's attention. Now, the problem is most of the people I see doing this, they're doing it on Facebook and they're just broadcasting to everybody. That's good for some events, but if you're building your tribe, you need to give people a reason to be a part of your tribe. And if you're just throwing out a general Facebook event, yeah, you might get more people, but they're not always going to be the best people. You want to take the ones that you've already gotten and make them feel special. So offer something just to them. If your community is just customers, offer them a special product or service that is only available to those customers, and make it something nice. I heard of one person that sells consulting services to a certain industry, and after every engagement, he would send the customer a box of locally made chocolates, local to him. Now, this wasn't cheap, but the whole thing cost him about $20. And he put a custom thank you note in each one of them. Didn't matter how big or small the job was or how well it went, he would send this. And whenever you talk to somebody about this particular consultant, the first thing they say is, hey, did you get a box of chocolates too? Those were awesome. And people always start with a smile when talking about him. That's what you want. So look for something like your box of chocolates. Okay, now that you've got your tribe, and depending on how hard you work at it, this could be as little as 6 months, or it might be a couple of years before you get your tribe to the point where you feel like it's time to take it to the next step. Now you can start your community marketing program. This community, if you've been in these webinars, you know what I'm about to say. This community knows you, they like you, and they trust you. And that's the important part. And if you've got that, first and foremost, don't blow it, okay? Yes, you want to increase sales. And yes, you want to get some of the money back that you've invested in community. But they're not your personal piggy bank. When you offer them something, make sure it's exclusive to them. It's a high quality product or service. And the price it's priced such that the value is obvious. Now, I've said exclusive a couple of times, and I want to point out that your community should be exclusive. It should not be exclusionary. It's exclusive to the people that are excited about your product, but nobody should feel excluded from your community, okay? So that's when I say exclusive but not exclusionary, that's what I'm talking about, okay? So the first thing you should offer them is something that's exclusive to them. Everybody loves exclusive. That's why they put the effort into being a member of your community, okay? Harley Davidson riders love the bikes, but they love being part of the Harley Owners Group, or the HOGs, okay? That's where the term hog comes from, is Harley Owners Group. And they'll get together and they'll go do stuff. And Harley makes special merchandise, whether it's clothing or whatnot, that is exclusive to them. If you run a local dog grooming service, okay, offer your community members free pickup and delivery. If you run a barber shop or a hairstylist shop, make certain times of the day or certain days of the week community only, so that the slots available are only available to those who are already excited about your product. Now, if you run an online store, offer your community early access to new products or new services before anybody else can get them. You don't have to give it to them, just make it early access to them, make a big deal about how they have early access. I guarantee you, as soon as they start buying and you start shipping, they're going to start squealing all over the internet about how they got it first. People love exclusivity. If you, I duplicated. The product has to be a high quality product or service. Okay. If you're a t-shirt shop, don't send them a cheap t-shirt with your logo on it, and that's it. Nobody wants that. The tech community used to have a problem with this. We could go to a conference, and literally, if I'm going to one of the big conferences, I could come back with a year's worth of t-shirts. Usually 17 to 20. I think 20 was my high one, the most I ever came back with. But these are all just cheap t-shirts with a logo on the front and a slogan on the back. I've actually stopped taking t-shirts from tech events, even tech events that I really like, because what I found is they're just not pretty, so I don't want to wear them. If you're going to do something like that, invest in something nice. Have an artist actually do a nice piece of relevant art and put it on the back. Put your logo on the front or right here on the shirt sleeve, one of the two. Yeah, it's a little more expensive, but trust me, those are the t-shirts that are going to get worn. And in the developer community, I know that somebody's hit upon a good t-shirt if people are wearing it at the next conference, and that's where the real payoff is. Obviously, I had a slide in there duplicated. One example of high quality. When I asked my wife to marry me, I asked my dad to help me find an engagement ring. We went to the jewelry store. I picked out the one that I thought I could afford, and I pointed at it. And Dad took my finger and gently edged it over and pointed at another one that was quite a bit more out of my price range. Dad had to actually help me do it. But the stone, okay, I'll be honest with you, you could see the stone without a magnifying glass. The one I was in, you really weren't sure if it, or one I pointed at, you really weren't sure if it had a stone in it. But this one was a nice size rock. He pointed to that. It's a bit more expensive, but you could see the stone. And he explained to me that the ring was not a symbol of my love to her. It was a symbol for her to show to her friends how much I love her. So if she's showing off this little itty bitty speck, that doesn't make her feel special. But if she's showing off a nice, I think that one was 3/4 of a carat, she's throwing off a nice 3/4 of a carat diamond, then yeah, people go, that makes her feel special. And that was the point of having the ring in the first place. Having the nice ring shows off that how she would feel special. One other thing I did, Dad taught me to be a master of the big event and making people feel special. And one of the things I did was my wife had to work a conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We were living in Nashville at the time. So I called a florist in Gatlinburg and I said, okay, and I had very exacting specifications. They had to get a map of Tennessee and fold it just right. And they traced the path from Nashville to Gatlinburg. And over Nashville, they wrote, "I am here." And over Gatlinburg, they wrote, "My heart is here." And they put that in a beautiful bouquet. They delivered it. Oh, when she got it, my wife called me. Oh, she was just blubbering. But the great thing was she was working with my sister and my brother-in-law. And they were actually running the company. And my sister looked at my brother-in-law and says, "Where are my flowers?" See, that was the point of that. I made her feel special. I got a lot of those stories. I'm not going to tell them all, but you need to make your people feel special by giving them something of such high quality that they understand this is special. Make them an offer that will wow them, and make them an offer that even if they have to pay for it, they're going to tell other people, "Look at what I got." That's where you get the win. And then if you are selling it, and like I said, whether you give away a t-shirt or you sell a coffee mug, it's totally up to you. But if you do sell it, make the price so that it is obvious that the value is Make the value obvious. If you are selling community coffee mugs that can be refilled, sell them for $5. That's going to cover the cost of your cup, okay? It's not going to cover the cost of your coffee, but people are going to go, oh my God, because I'm a member of this community, look at what I got. And people are going to tell other people about that. If you run a stationery store, okay, and somebody buys a nice pen and pencil set, they come in the nice little felt bags. Take the bag away. If they're a community member, put it in a nice carrier for them, a nice wooden case or something with your logo on it. You get the win in that they've got something with your logo on it, but that's going to sit on their desk, and they're going to tell everybody when they open that up and they take it out. It's going to make them think of you, and they're going to tell people about it. If you run a clothing store, offer community members free returns if they don't like the product. Okay. If you run an online store for custom furniture, offer community members a special version of your best-selling product that's not available to anybody else. These are the kind of things. Oh, if you run a bed and breakfast, if you got an unsold night, offer it to a community member at a significant discount or just at no charge. Hey, we've got this night free. You're local. Why don't you come over and just spend the night with us? Make a special evening for you and your partner. Whatever you offer, it should be obvious to your community member that what you're offering is special and that it's valuable. See, that's how you build community. You make them feel special. You make them proud to be a member of your community. You make them want to tell others how awesome you and your products or services are. See, community marketing has very little to do with marketing your services or your products to the existing community member. It has everything to do with getting that community member so excited about your community that they're willing to go out and market for you. That is community marketing.